Once again, I am working with my diluted acrylic paints. I've been having a lot of fun. I've been trying out different things. I've been pulling out some of my old circles that I did with acrylic paint. Yeah, it's just making a mess on my desk here. So, you know, we're just playing around. So, because I keep forgetting to use the gold, I figured I would put it down first. And instead of using watercolor gold, I'm using the acrylic paint gold. And so I'm just gonna cover my page with a layer of that gold and just have it there before I lay down my other paints. I'm not super fond of this gold, even in its undiluted stage, so this is a good way for me to use it up. I'm just sticking with my purple and blue color palette for now. Maybe add a little bit of the phthalo green. I don't know. I don't know yet. It's always a mystery on my channel, isn't it? Yeah, I like the gold and the purple together. I have to hold this down because it buckles. But let's see what kind of shenanigans we can come up with this way. My water, which I did not clean out before, has green in it, so we're just gonna add some extra water to it so that the paints can move. I'm just gonna start with the purple for now, and I might add some other colors in later. Let's see, maybe we'll add a little bit more of the gold. And then we'll just play with it. That's the wrong one. Should I use the green or should I use the blue? Let's use the phthalo blue. I forgot to put down some papers. My sandwich paper, because as it goes, I usually make a mess. I don't like the legs, so I usually just spray them, keeping things nice and flowing. I like the gold undertone. I think I will add some of the pink. I like this permanent magenta, but it's clogged, so I gotta unclog it first. Oh yeah. very clogged. It's a lot of blue on here, so we're just gonna beef up the purple and the pink a little bit more. I'm gonna add a little bit of gold here. All my bottles now have ball bearings in them, which does make it a lot easier to mix the colors back together, because they do settle immediately on the bottom and they separate. The water and the paints separate, so I do have to shake them every time I use them. All right, I think I like this. And I'm gonna set this one to the side and see if it dries interesting. All right, I will be back when it's dry. Okay, it has dried, and I really like the gold undertone it gives the rest of the colors, so I think that was a win, and I think I might try that again. I'm still not sure exactly which direction it's gonna go. I have a feeling it's gonna stay like that, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna start laying down some of the lines, and I'm sure it'll become clear once I get started. Once I started laying down the first few lines, it became apparent to me that the flow was more going upwards, meaning in this frame from right to left. And it became even more apparent in a little while here that that's what was going to happen. There were some really nice color gradings that I could go by to put my lines down, and when that happens I just follow those outlines a little bit more, but then I also feel like putting down just some random shapes to fill in certain spots. And then I started drawing this seagrass type, and it started to remind me of Ursula's lair from The Little Mermaid. So I just went with that and leaned into that theme a little bit more. I don't usually do that. Usually I just go with what comes to my mind, but every now and then my pictures actually have a storyline. Also, ever since I discovered neurographic art, I cannot leave my lines alone. I just have to round out the corners. That's not a bad thing. I actually thoroughly enjoy this process. And even though it looks a little bit messy here, I do go back in and refine and straighten out and color in the rounded out corners a little bit better after I stopped filming. This shape here reminded me of some coral, and I didn't want to make it coral looking per se, so I added these fine lines instead. This process took quite a bit of time and I had to speed it up quite a bit, but I kind of like it in hyperlapse mode. It's fun to watch. I do try to mix in some normal speed clips as well, just to give your eyes a little bit of a break in between. If everything was in this hyperlapse mode, I think people would go a little bit crazy. I don't know. I do. When everything is sped up crazily like that, I tend to tune out and not pay attention so much. So I like to add some normal speed or slightly sped up footage as well. Every time I re-outline my lines with a thicker pen and the lines don't quite add up, it's an opportunity for me to add a little bit more interest and maybe thicken the line where it doesn't add up quite as perfectly, or I use that opportunity to just add more lines where I maybe would not have put lines originally. Going with the Ursula's Lair theme, I have some more things growing up top there and then a layer of rocks. And these rocks are usually a nice way to fill in the bottom parts, or it doesn't have to be the bottom part, but bigger parts that normally aren't as interesting to look at. So the first part of this piece was actually in normal speed, and that is what I mean by, switching it up and letting you see an actual speed of me drawing these lines. Hyperlapses are fun to watch, but yeah, I just feel like sometimes it's important also to show normal speed. This here is normal speed as well. This is me drawing a line, and as I'm drawing it, trying to figure out where it's going to end up, and also what am I going to turn it into in the end. It could have just been big boulders as well, but because I had that sea urchin type on the left side, I decided to add 2 more on this side as well, just to balance it out a little bit. This painting is slightly smaller than what I usually choose. Usually my pieces are 6x9. This is a 5x8. And the reason I did this on a 5x8 was because I want to try and mount it onto a wooden frame. And if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, I'm going to pop in a video clip of me showing you what I mean and the wooden frame that I am going to use for this one. So my pieces are 6x9 and I like that size more. I feel like the 5x8 is just very small for me, but that's probably just because I'm not used to that size. I've been working with a 6x9 for quite a while now, and it's a nice in-between size. However, I can't find 6x9 wooden frames anywhere. So now I have employed my husband to help me build these wooden frames, which he's much better working with power tools than I am, although they shouldn't be too hard to build, even if I had to do it myself. But you know, it gives him something to do, right? So that is the plan. And I watched a few videos on how to preserve and mount the paintings because it's watercolor and because I don't know how light fast some of my colors are. I have to put a UV spray over it first, and then I want to add some wax seal over it to preserve them a little bit better. I'm actually looking forward to that step. I have tried it on an older piece and it's very satisfying to put that wax on. So I'm really looking forward to also putting a little bit more work into mounting the pieces and getting them ready to hang. But before I do that, I also want to scan them in so I can keep a digital version of it in case I send them off to other homes. I kind of want to keep some of them at least in a digital format so I can either reuse it or just have it for myself. I gave these guys a little bit of a halo with diluted white acrylic paint, and now I am shading them with a little bit of yellow to make them look like they're glowing. I don't think I've quite mastered that just yet. I have done it since on another painting and I made it work a little bit better. That acrylic paint is the same acrylic paint that I use for the dots, which is the golden acrylic paint. And I also diluted it a little bit more. I don't want to cover up the background all the way. I kind of want to give it the texture that it has behind the gold. So the goal was not to cover it up all the way. And the same goes for these bubbles. I put down the gold, but then I came in with a wet brush and I took some of that gold off again, just to give it an illusion that those bubbles are there without really seeing them too much. And then I just added some smaller dots in it just to give it a little bit more variation. And then I continued with dotting some more. And like I said, these are acrylic paints that I use, and for these I used the smallest dotting tool that I had, but the acrylic paint accumulates on the tip, and so every now and then I have to clean the tip off so that I can make these micro dots a little bit more easily. I wanted some more lighter spaces because that middle section turned out to be quite dark, and so I used the same white acrylic paint that I use for the dots to add some white spaces, which also helps balance out the piece a little bit more. And just like the gold, I diluted it quite a bit to make that bottom paint shine through a little bit more. And as it dries, it you can see that bottom layer a little bit more through it. And then I gave those bubbles some highlights, and I outlined them with my superfine pen a little bit more just to finish those off. And that's basically all that I did, and now I just have to frame it, and hopefully that will be a breeze. Alright, so this is the end of the video. Thanks again for making it all the way to the end. I appreciate that you do that. And here is a final look at what it looks like. I like it, but like I said, it is super small. So I don't think I will be working this small in the future. I mean, I have 4 more of those wooden frames, so I will use them up, obviously. But yeah, I think I am going to stick with my 6x9 size. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.